Hello, and thank you for joining me in part 2 of Religious Beliefs. In this episode, I will address the last fundamental question I posed in the previous episode, mythology. Bishop Yusuf Touma said that stories, myths, and legends are means of presenting religious perceptions. What is mythology, and what role does it play in today's world, especially as we enter a new era? My name is Khalid Quader, and this is Point of View. Myths are the foundations of many religions. They are very important because they fulfill our need to imagine a meaning and a sense of our lives, and they make up a major part of our heritage. Myths also provide a continuum of human existence and collective memory, and they unify people. According to psychiatrist Carl Jung, myth is an important aspect of the human psyche, which needs to find meaning and order in the world. Interestingly though, the word myth, as defined by various dictionaries, has conflicting meanings. One definition says that myth is a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining a natural or a social phenomenon, and typically involving supernatural beings or events. Another definition states that myth is a widely held but false belief or idea. Elsewhere, I read myth defined as a well-known story which was made up in the past to justify religious belief. The word myth in Arabic also carries a somewhat negative connotation, according to Bishop Touma, referring to something that is not totally real. The Arabic word for myth, ustura, is derived from the ancient Greek word historia, which means knowledge from inquiry. However, it does not carry any negative suggestions in other cultures, such as French, where historia became histoire, meaning history or a story, or in English, history. The online site Religious Tolerance states that people readily identify the myths of cultures different from their own as stories about events that never really happened historically, but which may be very useful in developing a person's worldview. But when it comes to the myths of their own cultures or religion, people often firmly believe them to be true recollections of actual events. As we humans advanced in life, the level of awareness that prevailed at any period of time changed and got mixed up due to many factors such as education, science and technology, demography, and ideology. In ancient times, these myths or stories and legends were the means of creating awareness through imagination in a purely abstract world. And in this present time, extrapolations and beliefs are important because they are always under the risk of new ways of thinking and new ideologies, which have become more prevalent starting from the 20th century, and especially as our awareness shifted and continues to shift from abstract to real. And as we enter a new era, these stories became even more important and must adapt to the current realities to prevent chaos, according to Professor Yuval Harari. In the same way that communism, socialism, and liberal democracy and other ideologies brought totally new ways of thinking, these and all other systems and beliefs must be constantly tested, evaluated, and even changed. Therefore, what we extrapolate and understand from these stories, myths, and legends is what is really important. We need to draw the relevant analogies and meanings. And this deduction process cannot stop, but needs to continue in order to advance our collective awareness. Myths are stories, and humans are storytellers by nature. And that's one of the reasons that led our species to advance. Yuval Harari, a philosopher and historian, says that sapiens evolved rapidly and controlled the earth due to three factors. They collaborated with each other, and unlike other species like ants, bees, apes, or dolphins, humans collaborated flexibly. And unlike other species that collaborated with each other, humans collaborated in very large numbers. To be able to collaborate flexibly in large numbers, humans needed stories, myths, and legends to provide a common shared meaning and a direction in their lives, and to avoid the chaos Professor Harari talked about. And as we continue to evolve as a species, myths will still be needed as a connection to our origin and our sense of identity and purpose. Myths and stories did not stop during the rise of science and philosophy during the Enlightenment, but continued to thrive till today. This is why the role of philosophers, historians, futurologists, and religious clerics is very important. These stories and myths are really meant to make us rethink and reevaluate and test our faith without attaching too much realism in these narratives or without adopting a strict linear approach. And this is the essence of belief. Religious discourse must adapt to new realities, to a world that for the first time in history will be very, very different. Through bioengineering, humans will further advance in organic life creation and even create non-organic forms of life. And artificial intelligence will render most jobs obsolete and will impact societies in a huge way. And by combining bioengineering and AI, new exciting and perhaps worrying horizons will emerge. Education systems are challenged to forecast what our children need to learn and the skills they need to acquire for jobs that will exist only a few years down the line. So, how did religious narratives address these enormous and imminent events? Religions are meant to transcend time and to be applicable to all periods of history as well as to the future. It is only what we extrapolate and how we adapt our understanding of these stories that we can provide a new significance, value, and a clearer direction. However, we often tend to dismiss religious mythology because we fail to draw the relevant meanings, either because we lessened our belief in myths, or we fail to interpret religious scriptures in a new way, to draw the pertinent analogies as applies to our present time. Others say that perhaps we failed to draw the relevant meanings because we did not study history to realize how early political struggles manipulated religious doctrines and faith and tainted religious mythology. We cannot understand religions if we don't understand how political conflicts influenced religious beliefs and consequently transformed mythology and the stories we narrate today. And maybe in an increasingly realistic and science-based world, to some, myths became just that, myths, or according to one dictionary definition, widely held but false beliefs and ideas. Prophet Muhammad stressed and urged his followers to narrate his stories exactly as they hear them, not as they understand them. Because those who eventually receive these stories, perhaps generations down the line, might have a higher level of awareness to understand their true substance than those who narrate them, especially when they are not tainted by the narrator's perceptions. And as we advance in technology, education, knowledge, and awareness, those stories and myths which we find hard to believe today or draw relevant value from will ultimately reveal their true significances. Thank you for watching. I would like to hear your comments and opinions on this topic. Please send me your questions and comments in the comment section below. This was Point of View. Till next episode, stay well.